Hello, Aquarius. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for March of 2022. I am Jamie Kale Miller of Pandora Astrology in Berkeley, California, and with me is...
Hey guys, I'm Julia Mijas, also Pandora in San Francisco.
And Aquarius, if this is your sun sign, then you might have missed your annual birthday solar return reading, which is absolutely the best way to get oriented to the themes of your year. So you may have slammed into your new year disoriented, and if you want to fix that, it's not too late. You can still get a useful, orienting solar return birthday reading, and for that, you can use the link in the YouTube description below. Well, I want to talk about a couple of asteroid goddesses that are transiting through some houses for you right now. Ceres had gone retrograde in October, is now direct and moving along quickly through your fifth house. Ceres is all about good stewardship. You can think of her as the gardener and the cultivator in whatever area she's moving through. And she's moving through the fifth house, which is a house of self. It's a house of self-promotion too. It's a house of creativity and fun and play and entertainment, trips to Vegas, love affairs, things that just gladden the heart. And Ceres moving into this house is suggesting now is a really good time for culling the forms of fun that aren't good for you, that don't actually help you to be an integrated, healthy, whole person, and that may instead, cost you in some way, and to instead cultivate forms of fun that really work for your life, and to indulge in those in a good way. So that's what Ceres is bringing to you this month. And probably next month too, because Ceres moves so slowly, it'll probably take a couple of months going through this house. So Juno is the other asteroid goddess I want to talk about, and she is presently in the sign of Aquarius, moving through your first house, through your sign, and will be so probably next month as well. Juno is the social maven of our pantheon. She is all about committed partnership, long-term relationship, whether for business or personal reasons. And so her presence in your first house says that you could show up as a social leader while she's traveling through this house. You can be that person who attends the groups that you're a part of and looks over the group and asks yourself, how can I help the fabric of this group to be stronger by introducing people that should know each other to each other, and strengthening the connections that I have to people in this environment, and centering it more perhaps on myself, and forming the center, like I like to think of with Juno, the Native American image of the Spider Woman who stands in the middle of her web and feels all of the vibes through the threads that her feet are standing on, and knows who's connecting with who, and whether those are good connections. So that's a role for you to play as Juno transits through your first house. Now, Julia, I think you've got news about Mercury and Venus, Venus and Mars, which have gotten together in Capricorn. What are those thoughts?
Yeah, well, Venus and Mars start the month in Capricorn, and we really covered that cycle in last month's video. They'll be there for the first 5 days of the month, but after March 5th, they're moving together in the sign of Aquarius, which for you, Aquarius, is your first house. Now, Venus and Mars have totally different meanings. Venus is a planet that represents beauty. She likes to attract things to herself. Wherever we have Venus, we have a little extra luck and pleasure, whereas Mars is a planet that's all about getting out there, being very driven, going after what you want instead of having things attracted to you. And it can also have a little bit of a feisty quality to it because it represents our anger as well as conflict. having both of these in your first house, means that there's a very strong emphasis on how you project yourself out to other people this month, because you're really embodying these vibes very strongly. With Venus in the first, it's a wonderful time for doing anything that might beautify your looks, because, Venus in the first tends to make us look a lot better looking wherever she is that month, usually in our first. And also tends to really be a nice time in our relationships too, because Venus is also the planet of peace. And that means that you're projecting more sort of peaceful, beautiful, harmonious energy out to others. Now, Mars is a planet that's very, very high energy, having it in the first house, and it can sometimes run into conflict with other people too. However, Mars is also a great planet that for getting in touch with your boundaries and being able to sort of stand up for your rights as well. So it can be an excellent transit for that, as long as you make sure that you're not going overboard, say your piece, stand up for what you believe in, but also don't make mountains out of molehills, and you can really get the most constructive use out of this transit. Now, Venus is moving very fast in the sky now, which is totally opposite to how she's been the last few months while she's been retrograde, which just finished up at the end of January, and it took her a little while to start moving more quickly in the sky. But when Venus is fast and direct, it tends to really help out our relationships, because we've gone through that really intense review process this winter. The last and important planet I want to talk about is Mercury, who's also moving direct and fast now. Mercury starts the first 9 days of the month. It's going to be in your first house. And again, we really covered that last month too. So if you want to hear how that's going to feel for the first 9 days that month, you can look at our February video. Now, after the 9th, it's going to shift into your second house. This is the house of money, and it's the house of possessions. So with Mercury in the second house, this is going to be a time where your mind might be very preoccupied with making money. Maybe you're strategizing about how you can expand your business, or maybe ask your boss for a raise. Mercury in the second is also a good time for even buying and selling your personal possessions. Mercury is a planet that's really associated with sales. A lot of salesmen tend to have really strong Mercuries, and saleswomen. So Mercury in the second can be a really good time for sort of strategizing and planning around your possessions. Maybe you don't need your car anymore, or maybe you're planning and strategizing about buying a new one. But those are things and matters that will probably preoccupy your mind this month, Aquarius.
Do you think with Venus and Aquarius in that first house that it's a good time for maybe a style update?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And even a fashion update too, because Mercury in the second might mean that you might be thinking about spending a little bit more money too. So especially on your looks and appearances, I could see how that would work well.
Yeah, that seems like a good timing there. Okay, so there are two moons I want to talk about. The first one is the new moon in Pisces, which has so much just beautiful harmony in it. It has a harmonious connection with Uranus, and Jupiter is all up in that here in your second house. This moon we're calling rationally dreaming for the collective. And that's because of the themes of gregariousness from Jupiter, and tribe and community involving Uranus. And rationality is also connected with Uranus, which is a very airy, very cerebral planet that loves to think and brainstorm. And then we have the very strong Pisces theme, which Jupiter also amplifies. And so there's such a wonderful feeling of compassion and warmth. This is happening in your second house, which I can imagine would be possibly a little bit problematic, because the second house is the house of money. It's a house of finances. And Pisces and Jupiter are very much about generosity and giving. And so I think it would be probably important to not be too leaky with your finances and just give away too much. But I think that some careful thought and not to say restrained, but, thoughtful tithing would be really appropriate right now. So if there is a charity organization that you really believe in, that you feel a lot of compassion about, or a community that you really want to give to, this is a really great month for doing that. And I would say actually both moons veer that way. The second moon is coming up on the 18th. And it's actually happening on the 18th, but the best view of it is going to be on the 17th, as we see this moon sitting here in your 8th house in Virgo, opposite the sun here in Pisces. And Neptune's involved with this moon, so is Pluto and both of the nodes. It's a complex moon, but it's just as harmonious as the prior moon that I spoke of. And so both of the moons have all harmony, no stress, which is wonderful. I always love to be able to say that. So this does continue the financial themes for you because the sun remains in the 2nd house, which represents your own money, but the moon moves into the 8th house, which represents other people's money or pools of money that you may participate in. In other words, investments and things like taxes and insurance that, you know, maybe you don't really want to do, but you have to do when they involve pooling your money. Also, any marital or business finances that you share with another person that you're in a committed relationship with. So there's an emphasis on these themes during this moon. We're calling this moon Realize Your Empathy Through Humble Practice. And the feeling of empathy is very strong in both of these moons. You can find out a lot more about these moons, by the way, in our March 2022 news playlist on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology, and find out, you know, more of what's behind these interpretations that I'm giving you. And I do recommend that you look that stuff up. But what I want to say is that all of this compassion with Neptune and the sun being together in Pisces, there's so much compassion and empathy and such a strong feeling for, you know, that sense of like almost religious or spiritual connectedness with all that is. And then the moon wants to express that through good works, through humble practice, through, you know, showing up and ladling out the soup at the soup kitchen, you know, doing something about it in your partnerships, in the space where you share with your partner. So that might mean something as simple as sitting down and listening to your partner talk about their damage, their trauma, you know, and just being with them in a very firm and solid way. It might mean, well, as I like to say about the Pisces Virgo dichotomy, sometimes you gotta stop with the navel gazing, and praying for world peace is a very good thing, but you know, maybe you should come down from the mountain, pick up a toothbrush and clean behind the latrines. So, and this moon is very much pushing us in that direction of like, do something practical with the universal love that you sometimes feel. Okay, last thing I want to tell you about is the seasonal shift. It's equinox time. Here's the sun finishing out Pisces, moving into Aries on March 20th, beginning a whole new season and a whole new quarter and a whole new year, because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It is where all things begin and things spring forth from. This is your 3rd house, and wherever the sun travels, I like to talk about shining the light of your high quality attention in that area. This is a house of ideas, thoughts, and the cerebral. It's also a house of the things and the people that are right around you all the time, the environment. So it's a house of your neighborhood. It refers to your siblings if you are still living at home. It refers to your neighbors or your housemates. And so shining the high quality attention, the sunlight of your high quality attention onto those people and into those environments, and bringing the vivacity and the energy and the faith and the hope and the ability to start over that is embedded in the sign Aries is the very thing to do this month with this transit. Well, that's what we had for you today, Aquarius. Hope you enjoyed it. You can always find your horoscope for your sun sign and your rising sign on our website, pandoraastrology.com, in the horoscopes tab. The monthly forecast is there with the moon videos and other videos, news about the month. And then you can get readings with us in the readings tab and take classes as well. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye-bye.
Bye.